So moving on up. So first of all, Darcia is a part of a marquee event. So if they continue to follow the current cadence that they are doing, um, he will be free to play in 3 months. He will come out at 3 stars. If possibly with the 9.99. I'm always confused whether or not like what cadence they're going for with the 9.99. If it's supposed to follow the cadence with the Holdo and Rose, where it gives you enough to get him up to 4 stars, or if it's not enough to get him up to 4 stars. Mist, you sounded like you had an inside track on that.
I don't know what makes them choose to give us 0 of 30 shards from a marquee event or 15 of 30 shards from a marquee event at 3 stars. I have no idea what formula they use. I don't know why they gave us an extra 15 shards of Holdo and Rose, because if you recall correctly, the marquee event only gave us 0 of 30, but then out of nowhere, I'm assuming because people threw a big enough fit on the forums, they decided, okay, fine, we'll give you an extra 15 shards. But then they didn't give us an extra 15 shards of Marauder, which if they had, I would have spent $10 and got my Marauder to 4 stars. Instead, my Marauder is sitting at 0 of 30, and I'm not going to spend the $10 because I get nothing for spending that $10.
Excuse me, you're implying that people on Reddit and in the forums complain. That's a falsehood.
I can actually weigh in on this. I'm one of the mods on the forums, and while we don't really have access to all the information, while we do have a non-disclosure agreement, that's just for what we do have access to. What I can say is that the marquee event for Rose and Haldo were intended to give out the right amount. I actually missed that event, so it was only given to people that did participate in the event. Otherwise, I wouldn't have 0 shards. But other ones were intentionally done, so possibly for marketing reasons. I'm not sure. Different business, structures for different characters with different movies coming out.
Okay,
stuff like
wait.
So
people don't do things around movies. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. We all were waiting for Holdo and Rose. We all were.
My guess is they gave us the extra shards for Rose and Holdo to boost sales. Get people to possibly buy that $10 pack because it would give them the extra star.
Well, that one was.
Whereas the Marauder sold like freaking hotcakes. I know he did.
I can imagine, yeah.
And they didn't have to give out the extra shards.
Nope, I don't believe it for a second. Nope.
Scion and Vissus
or The Last Jedi.
Scion and Vissus are probably not going to give us 15 of 30. I'm just going to say that right now because there is a lot of hype around these two characters. People are going to spend the $10 and then wail out. A lot of people are going to spend they'll spend the $10 and then only spend $50 and get a 4 or 5 star Vissus or Scion and then wait for them to go free to play, just because. And this is where I think that a lot of people will probably be more inclined to spend a little bit of money, maybe not get them to 7 stars, but spend a little bit of money on Scion, especially because being a tank, if you recall, a high health character like Nihilus, for example, Nihilus was 100% arena viable at 3 stars.
So was this Baze Malbus character that we're pretty familiar with?
Baze Malbus, Shore Trooper. There have been a number of characters introduced to the game, especially tanks and high health characters, that at lower star levels are arena viable. With the introduction of Gear 12, I don't know how much that will play into rendering a 3-star Scion non-arena viable. However, I could see a lot of players going out and spending a few bucks, spend $10 plus $20 just to get them 4 stars. Not a big deal.
I can definitely see it. Hey,
for Dolphin status, that's 100% viable, and I think that you'll see 3 and 4 star Gear 11 Scions running around in arenas. His
Hey,
kit
Legend, can you
cleansed.
do me a favor? Can you shut the hell up?
Him.
Dude, part conversation, brother.
I'm sorry, I'm not like you. I don't want to interrupt everybody.
Yeah.
He's got jokes. All right, so moving on. So totally, that was literally like 3 words, and we're just going in. All right, so pain is the primary debuff for Darkseid. All right, go ahead and let's throw it over to Curiel.
Mhm.
You feel comfortable talking about it? About the
Uh,
debuff?
Yeah, no problem. It's basically his mechanic, his kit revolves around that single buff. And every ability
Right,
that
but
he's using.
what does the buff do, or the debuff do? Sorry.
Oh, I apologize. Well, one, like I said, it triggers for a lot of his abilities. But 2, it allows him to deal more damage, just basically to the player. Honestly, it's just kind of a way for him to apply debuffs, is what it looks like. But yeah, it's his entire kit is built around it. It's very thematic. You know, he's really all about the pain, man. The struggle is real.
All right, and then lastly, kind of about the pain debuff is that anybody that is suffering from the pain debuff, and we're going to talk about his kit in a little bit and how he applies that pain mechanic, and literally it's on everything that he does. Anybody that suffers from that pain mechanic is going to have to attack Darth Sion. So
That's his taunt mechanic, essentially.
we're getting into that. Spoiler alert. So building on that, so he has synergy with Palpatine and Vader, but Culling Blade clears off pain, which may be a bad thing. Like, what's your guys' take on how Culling Blade interacts with pain? Sure. Sorry, let me throw it to well, let's talk to the chatty one of the group, Legend.
So your question is Culling Blade knocking off pain? Is that what you're getting at there?
Yeah, do you think that it's a detriment or do you think that it's a boon?
I mean, I guess that kind of depends on the situation in game. I mean, you know, if you have a bunch of stacked dots on one particular tune, you know, and you throw that Culling Blade and you're able to kill them, who cares about, you know, the pain that's put on them? But
Right.
you know, maybe Invader's not the guy to have on the team. You know, I don't know. I'd have to play around with him a little bit.
There
but-
you go. That's the point that I was hoping somebody would raise. Faustin, what's your take, brother?
Oh man, you see me just bristling with anticipation. No, I say remove that pain every chance you get. Every time he applies pain to a new guy, it reduces his cooldowns even more. I think as often here as my notes are indicating that he can just apply it everywhere, everything he touches. I'll need confirmation from Mist, some insight from you as to whether refreshing pain will count as reapplying it and also reducing that cooldown or not. I'm not familiar with that game mechanic as much. I don't have a lot of
Stealing my thunder.
but yeah, no, use that Culling Blade. It's more fodder to the cannon.
Curio, what's your take, brother?
Well, and I think what you guys are alluding to is basically his 15 stack cooldown that he's trying to get down to 0, right? Because if you remove it from a character, then that means he can reapply it in every application. It's just going to reduce his cooldown for his Super Saiyan move, right?
Well, I think that it's a couple fold. Like if you're talking about an Emperor Palpatine lead, that it removes it and it gives your entire team 5% buff. But at the same time, then no longer is it there. So is it a detriment to Scion? Because if he only applied it to that character, now he doesn't have his taunt or something like that. You
Right.
know?
So I think Faustin's question misses really relevant because if he is, let's say there is already 5 pains out on the field, but you want to clear all the debuffs, or I'm sorry, clear all the buffs on your enemies, is his casting of Torment, I believe it's Torment, right? His casting of Torment, is that going to count as 5 applications of pain because they got renewed? And that's going to reduce the cooldown on his Capped Fury. What the hell is his last Scion
Held
move?
by
Thank you.
Got it.
So is that gonna, like Foston said, is that gonna refresh and
So
count as an application?
the way that I interpret the kit is whenever he inflicts pain. So whether the character already had pain or not, I think the successful application of the debuff is what will trigger the cooldown, whether the debuff already
Yeah.
exists or not. So that is my assumption. Whether that's accurate or not, I'll have to play around with that. I didn't have a chance to play with the character.
Right.
With respect to Darth Vader, keep in mind that if you're running him under an Emperor Palpatine lead, every time a negative status effect is removed from an enemy, that is 5% turn meter granted to all Sith on the team. Sith
Is
and
that-
Empire.
Is that why Emperor Palpatine is 70% of your shard? Is that why? Or?
That's one of the reasons.
Oh, okay.
The leader ability granting turn meter, the whole Zeta factor in play there. So Culling Blade, yeah, it's going to strip pain, but you're also going to be stripping pain to give turn meter to your entire squad of Sith/Empire. If you're running Thrawn. So Culling Blade I wouldn't say Culling Blade is a hindrance or a problem per se, especially if you are, throwing Culling Blade at like a General Kenobi, who if he attacks somebody other than Scion, big whoop, he's gonna do like 4,000 damage. Okay, I'm sorry. Get out of here. Yeah, exactly. Spoiler
Fair
alert, Luke, after getting blasted. I don't think Vader, because the advantage of having Vader on your squad, I think outweighs the perceived negative aspects of pain being stripped by
Well,
Culling Blade.
it's not just the negative aspects, but then maybe Scion finds a home, and this was brought up earlier, I believe by Faustin, or was it Legend? I'm sorry, whoever I'm giving credit to, is that what if he just doesn't belong on a Vader team? What if he finds a home somewhere else?
I think you will probably find somebody to replace Vader on your Emperor Palpatine team. I don't think you'll find Scion on a different team. I think that would be the difference. Is you might take Vader out for. I'm trying to think of another.
Yeah,
Sith.
I mean, we can
maybe
insert
Traya. Maybe Traya, when Traya comes out. We still haven't seen what Traya can do. So you could find yourself with a Emperor Palpatine, Traya, Nihilus, Scion, Sith Trooper meta.
But I honestly think Culling Blade is what makes the Emperor Palpatine team work. To be honest, though.
Right, because you have
it's
the
just
ability to stack massive negative status effects onto a character, and then when you find yourself at a disadvantage turn meter wise, you throw out Culling Blade, strip 7 debuffs, and all of a sudden you've just given everybody on your team's 35% turn meter, and
Because
now everybody on your team takes another turn before your enemy does.
Absolutely,
So I think,
and speed is king in the arena. And
Yeah,
you're just
and
adding
Vader-
so much speed to your team.
and Vader is fast as balls.
And not to mention the fact that it was an 80k crit.
So
Yeah,
speaking of
Culling
speed
Blade.
with Vader, he has just that insane speed just from his unique now. So one of the first things a lot of people do is they put up that AOE, the Force Crush, put up all the debuffs. But now that he's so fast, sometimes it's going to be dispelled by Rex or Akbar or somebody. For me, I think it fits very well as he's going to apply that. It's going to get cleansed, and I don't think a speedy Scion is going to be good, so that he can go after all that and then apply pain to everybody. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that when we get to Torment, but I could be mistaken, but it seems to
I
me
think
like
that's a really interesting talking point. No, you're totally spot on.
But remember,
I'm not sure if Torment
whenever
is
when
tenacity.
when Rex takes that first turn and cleanses all those negative status effects that Vader just threw up, he's giving basically every other Sith 100% turn meter.
Mhm.
Yep.
He's
Same with
giving
Kenobi.
he's giving your
Yep.
full Sith squad full turn meter. So
That's-
then Scion takes a turn, uses Torment, cleanses all those buffs, takes them all off, and replaces it with Pain. So
Yeah.
That-
I say
now
speed all the way.
Rex's cleanse ability is on cooldown for 2-3 turns, whatever it is. So
Yep.
throw a Nihilus in there even longer.
mhm.
Okay, so fair enough.
Mhm.
Let's
Sorry.
finally actually talk about his basic. It's Dark Rage. It says deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict pain. And this is the caveat to pain, so that way I don't have to explain it every single time. It goes up for 3 turns. Whenever pain is inflicted on an opponent, it will last for 3 turns or until it is dispelled. It can be dispellable. Don't worry about that. No matter what ability it comes from. If the target already had pain, dispel all debuffs on Scion. So if the target is already suffering from pain, and we're going to get into his kit, obviously everything gives pain. So, and you're going to be using his basic in between the other abilities. So really, it pretty much says this point. It is that you dispel all debuffs on Scion. So that's a pretty legit basic. Not to mention the fact that again, this could be a boon, but against an EP-led opponent, it could be a negative because if your opponent has an Emperor Palpatine lead, you're dispelling debuffs, which could give your enemy team turn meter. So there's something to consider there. And then let's go ahead and let's just dive into that for a second. So let's throw it over to Fawson. Fawson, what's your thoughts, man?
Man, honestly, so this reminds me a lot, kind of like how annoying Phase 1 of the tank raid is, where the little side droids, the magma droids, they will just hold that taunt on whoever they put a debuff on. And before I actually became knowledgeable about how to counter all that, it was the most annoying thing to me. I think control of who you want debuffed is going to be a big point, and that way Scion can just focus on them, cleansing himself. I don't really see him using his basic all that often, though. He has 3 special abilities and enough cooldown reduction that we'll get into later that I think it's really just going to be one of those emergency things of, okay, he has all these debuffs, get him off quick.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily. Well, maybe there's a scenario that happens, but to be honest with you, I think you'll weave it in between his specials. Like you're like, oh, all my specials are on cooldown. I'll go ahead and do the basic. Legend, what's your thought, man?
I'm just curious how much damage pain is going to do. Like, how much of a pain
And
is
I
that
have a
pain going to
solid
be?
answer for you, sir.
I'm
Okay.
reading it, and I don't, I didn't do my homework as much as you guys did here, but
Oh, it's okay. It's actually a pretty strong basic. I think what I saw, I wrote it down. Hold on 1 second here. And of course, my slider's not working. There we go. I think we saw some 18K to 14K crits, and we saw some 8 to 12K basics. Like, not non-crits, sorry.
yeah, I
should
got
say.
you. And I'm not talking when he actually lands a strike. I'm talking, on that tune that he's landed pain on their next go. How much is it stripping? How much damage is it doing? You get what I'm saying?
Are you talking about the debuff pain or where are you
Yes,
going? I'm sorry.
I'm talking about pain exactly. Like how much is it gonna hurt them to have it on there? Is what I'm asking.
I am definitely not studious enough to answer that question. Maybe we can throw that over to Mist. Mist, are you aware of
Trying-
how much damage it's doing?
I believe it's like an expose. Trying to watch some gameplay and get an idea. Sorry.
Because pain is bonus damage,
Right.
from Scion. So
Well,
that
yeah.
kind of.
So are you asking what the percentage is?
Well, yeah. If there is a percentage, I mean, like I said, I didn't do my homework like you guys did, so I'm sitting here reading it as we're talking about it. And
Because if I'm not mistaken, in the video it did explain that he did 35% more damage to a character that had pain applied. So so depending on his base, he's gonna do whatever his base is buffed up at the time. So it
And
could
I
be.
wasn't studious enough to realize whether or not they had the pain debuff on them when I was seeing the 18k up to 18k
Yeah.
crits. So
Okay,
I don't
so-
know if that was with pain applied or not.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is because pain itself does damage. Even without Scion hitting them or without anybody hitting
Yeah.
them, pain
So-
itself. So if I apply pain to General Kenobi, on General Kenobi's next turn, he's going to take damage. I'm wondering how strong that damage is.
It doesn't. It's not like a dot where the person takes damage. It's when Scion deals damage via another ability.
Okay, so it's only
They take
when
bonus
it does that.
damage.
Okay.
I'm looking at a screenshot of an attack on Kenobi where he did 8,746 damage, non-crit, to Kenobi. And then Pain added a bonus, it looks like, because I love how they overlap the heals on top of damage. It looks like it did a bonus 3,291, I think.
So roughly, we'll say 11 to 12.
Okay, so that answers my question then.
So
That's
I
basically
think
what I was getting at.
I think it's kind of like a soft expose that only applies to
I
damage
get you.
done by Scion, if that helps
Okay.
make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was the way it was explained in the video. It's not necessarily an expose to where it's going to do like a percentage of what their health is, or what the. It's going to be a percentage of
another
what the
character.
damage. Yeah, it's a percentage of what
Yeah.
damage he does.
I was
don't know.
watching
Well,
the video whenever you
I'm
guys
sure
were
more
talking.
information will come out around that, and
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
So
Where'd
takeaway
Watson
on
go?
that
He
legend.
disappeared?
He's outside smoking. He was like, he cut off his camera, I think, because he was like, oh, I'm smoking, and like I don't want to influence the youth of smoke.
Yeah, kind of. Sorry, yeah, I'm still here. I mean, I can turn it back on if you prefer. I just didn't know if it would be advertiser friendly, family friendly, appropriate.
I mean,
We're not
he's drinking his
monetized.
$5 waters or like.
You can just edit it out. I don't know, whatever.
I'm not editing anything out of this. Ooh, okay, so let's move on. So his first special, Torment. Torment says, now the visual on Arnold T101's video said 3-turn cooldown. But then in his when he was vocalizing it, he said it had a 5-turn cooldown. Mist, can you like elaborate on that? What is it? Is it a 3-turn or a 5-turn cooldown?
What I have in my information is 5-turn cooldown.
Okay, good to know. His visual, like I said, on the screen said 3, but he was saying 5, so I was a little bit confused by that.
Yeah, I think he might have been confusing the 3 turns for Pain. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to paraphrase here. It's an AoE that deals around 5k per target, give or take a little bit, that then dispels all buffs on the enemies that it hits. So obviously we're talking about like Tide teams. So it's super great against like the BB-8 Illuminated Destiny. It's super strong against like old Ben after he dies, and you're cleansing those buffs. It's super strong against like I believe
Rex.
Warrior quoted it as the Tiger Team with Fulcrum, Ahsoka Tano, and of course, probably the most prevalent character that I have yet to mention, R2D2.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Look at
So
that stealth.
this
Yeah.
ability seems absolutely bonkers. Not only like if it just did this spell, like I'd be on board. But yeah, it does so much more. So as we continue on, it applies pain for every single person, or they have a chance to, I guess, resist. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say every single person. They have a chance to resist, and then it's reduces its cooldown for 1 for each enemy without pain. So this was a question that I guess is a little bit loaded because I asked Mist a little bit earlier about the sequencing on this. But so our viewers can kind of soak it in, and your viewers can soak it in, Mist. So when is that applied? Like, is it when he's casting it that it's applied, or is it when the characters take their turns, or is it at the start of Darth Sion's turn, or where does this apply?
So the last part, which is also important, is the attack can't be evaded. So what that means is that if an enemy has foresight, that foresight. So there are 2 types of buff removal mechanics. Baze has his AoE little thing where he shoots across the enemy team and will strip buffs. Well, if one of those enemies has foresight, then they dodge his attack and their buffs aren't removed. What the last line in this ability, this attack can't be evaded, does, because this is a deal physical damage to all enemies and then dispel all buffs on them. What it's doing is it's circumventing foresight, which doesn't remove foresight, because if you have like a Wampa, his basic attack can't be evaded. When he attacks, foresight doesn't get removed. The same thing with R2D2's flame ability, where it can't be evaded. It doesn't remove foresight. It's kind of a bittersweet thing. What it's doing though is it's stripping foresight, then applies pain, and then if anybody resists pain, that's when the ability will get reduced by the cooldown of the ability will get reduced by 1.
So super important information right there. Like Miss totally, he educated me on this. It's important to note that that's what it does for the future, so that way you can apply that information for your own gaming purposes. But let's go ahead and shoot it around the corn, if you will. I I I didn't coin that. That's from RSG, so I'm ripping it off. Kirill, what's your take, man?
Well, this is actually a caveat off of what Foston was saying earlier, and I think Legend backed him up. Speed is going to be really important on this guy. It's going to be super important because you're going to want pain applied
Actually,
right away.
correct me if I'm wrong, Foston. Didn't you say that you were opposed to putting speed on Sion?
Very weird idea, yeah, but everything I was kind of looking at is almost putting it as like I think he would be better off going maybe like 3rd or 4th turn. So yeah, speed always dictates arena. You're gonna want him taking more turns as the battle goes on, but I'm not so sure if you want him so jacked up to go first. Is all I.
Well, I mean, let's
Well,
be
he's not going to be
realistic.
faster than Vader.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's-
he's not
yeah,
gonna be fast.
The ones that you're
Fast
going
and all
to care
that.
about, he's not going to be faster than R2. He's not going to be faster than BB-8. He's not going to be faster than
We
a lot of the.
We don't know his base speed.
It's actually pretty low. I
I
thought.
would guess it to be somewhere around 100, maybe 110.
Cubs fan Han was playing with him in the arena, and he's like, "Dude, I can't get my freaking Scion to go. Like my Scion is so slow. so I'm assuming it's slow. But I guess what I was driving at was yes, you want to. I would assume you want him to go not super fast, obviously, but you're gonna want to basically have what do you want to call it a clear field of fire. You're gonna want to clear the taunt. You're gonna want to clear the stealth, and you're gonna be able to pick and choose with your team who you're gonna deal your debuffs to and who you're gonna deal your first damage to. So he is gonna be just a great opener. It's just like an opening of a flower.
Well, hold on for just a second, and I'm going to throw it back around the panel here. But I want to throw my 2 cents on this. To me, he needs to be a moderately speed character because you want them to, like, okay, let's say you're going against the AI. They have a Raid Han. They do the shoot first, and then they apply all their buffs every single time. Or you're going up against Baze and Shrewd. Whatever it is, you want Scion to go after those guys because you want him to cleanse all that. You don't want to deal with it whatsoever. And I think that he is a beast, even though he needs to be moderately speed. Like, he needs to be right around 200 in my humble opinion. But that's my own take. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, you know what? I meant to cut you off.
No, I think we're saying exactly the same thing. And Legend was saying this. You're not going to be able to get him to go faster than R2. It's not going to. So anyway,
I mean, if he's going faster than R2, that R2 is way too slow.
right.
I mean, like Miss said, we don't know his base speed, but I mean, you know, it's like I got a plus 103 on Kenobi, and he goes last on my team.
Yeah.
You know, so which one, plus 103 is pretty solid, but you know,
I would say
tanks aren't meant to be fast, but you want them to be as fast as you can get them. I mean, any character, you know, you want that highest possible speed stat that you can get. But you know,
well, let's look at the team he's going to be in. He's going to be in the Emperor League team, so you're going to have Vader go, regardless.
Well, you're making assumptions, sir. We haven't gone around the corn yet.
Well, I'm just putting in my corn shock. All right, here's my corn shock.
Jesus, hurry up!
You're gonna have Vader go first. He's gonna call in Blade. You're gonna want him to go after Vader, because after he goes after Vader,
you don't have a choice. Vader is always gonna go first over everybody, right?
Dude, we've been saying the same thing for 5 minutes. Let me get past the point. We're saying the same thing, brother. Oh my god! So you're gonna want him to go, and then you'll have the clear rain of fire, and you can do whatever you want with the opposing team. They're gonna be like a naked virgin on prom night. You're just gonna have your way with them.
My thing is don't get in your head that you need to try to not put fast speed mods on him to get him to go third or fourth or wherever in the firing order, because on most teams, he's probably going to go last anyway. I would assume. Like I said, we don't know his base speed, but it's not going to be crazy high or anything like that. It's not going to be a 160 base speed or whatever where you can end up having a 290 speed tank. It's unrealistic. So don't mod around trying to make him slower than everybody because he's already going to be.
Right. Yeah, I think you can get away with that with Sith Trooper, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. And I know this is already going way too long. So, Faustin, you got any other take on that?
I do. I want to touch on what Mist was saying about the importance of that this ability cannot be evaded. We're still talking about Torment. It is going to be like a direct counter to those guys that just throw up mad buffs up. I'm talking like Raid Han, doing all that jazz. I'm pretty sure we mentioned earlier, I think it trumps Rex's tenacity up if he's already cleansed. So you take away the tenacity up and then you still apply pain. And for me, this is almost like the reverse of BB-8. It's you're just spreading this pain like wildfire. I mean, you are setting up for the rest of the team, especially for Darth Nihilus, who can then just instantly Drain Force, take all his cooldown stuff off. You just reduced a later kit ability we'll get into. That cooldown has been, directly affected. I really do enjoy this whole concept that Scion is all these best parts of different characters put into one. So for me, it's the only risk is going up against maybe like a team with multiple cleansers, like Akbar with Rex, with somebody else, like Barris or Visas, like we were talking about.
And before I throw it over to Mist, because I'm about to, it's interesting to note that this could be a resurgence of CLS, because CLS brings those counterattacks, and this is an AoE effect that doesn't say it can't be countered, unlike Vader. So just throwing it out there. Mist, what's your take on it, man?
Are you wanting me to talk about the being able to counter this ability as well?
Yeah, I mean, go nuts, man.
So, obviously, it's a direct counter to, like you guys said already, all of the teams that throw up a lot of buffs. The fact that it can't be evaded, I think, is a direct counter to the Jedi training Rey, where she loves her some Foresight. It trumps Foresight. And then in regards to the being able to be countered, I would point you at the Zeta upgrade for his unique, which we could get to, or I can allude to right now, where any enemy, at the end of each turn, which implies every turn, whether it was an enemy turn or an ally turn. So, and at the end of every turn, Scion inflicts pain for 3 turns on enemies who damaged him that turn. So if he does the Force Crush ability, his Torment ability, and inflicts pain on all of his enemies, that's 5 pains, reducing the cooldown of Held by Hatred by 5. If it gets countered by 3 enemies and they attack Scion, and he inflicts pain again because they attacked him that turn, that's 3 more turns that are reduced from the cooldown of his Held by Hatred. So the fact
but
that
it would be 2 that would attack, right? Because we're saying that it didn't land on 3, so 2 people have to.
Oh
attack
no,
him
I'm saying that if he damaged anybody, it wouldn't matter if. So what I'm saying is, if
maybe
the
I
pain,
need to look at
if pain is being reapplied still reduces the cooldown, then it will work that way. So even if he inflicts pain on all 5 characters at the end of that turn, if it was countered by 3 characters and when he was damaged by 3 characters at the end of that turn, pain is applied to those 3 characters who dealt him damage, then that's a total of 8 turn cooldown on Held by Hatred. Does that make sense? If what I'm assuming is accurate, where if pain is reapplied on a character that already had pain, it still reduces the cooldown of Held by Hatred. That's something that I need to confirm. So
Yeah, and the
that's why
ease.
we're all sleep deprived.
Yeah, the ease of what you can get to Held by Hatred is going to be what's going to really just put this guy into another stratosphere. I think he's already tier 1, but if you can get to that Held by Hatred pretty easily, he might be. We might be talking like CLS range.
I think that raises a good talking point that we can kind of like go a little bit on. Already, I know you guys are watching this and you're getting a little bit tired of hearing all 5 of us just ramble on. But in all seriousness, hold on 1 second. It was the. Let's go through the abilities first. Okay, let's go through that, and then we'll come back into the finite issues. Okay, so what we were talking about earlier was Held by Hatred. It starts on a 15-turn cooldown. Scion dispels all debuffs from himself, which is good and bad because, again, against the mirror match, Emperor Palpatine gives turn meter to the whole team. Scion recovers 100% health and gains 100% turn meter. Scion gains hatred until he is defeated, so killed, whatever you want to call it, which can be dispelled or prevented. When Scion inflicts pain, reduce the cooldown by 1. He gains 20 hatred, the ability that he gains. He gains 25% crit chance, 100% defense, and 100% offense. So that leads us into like a question that we can go around with is what's the best way to build him? Would it be offensive? Or because he gains so much defense, maybe he could be offensively stacked as opposed to defensive, which is what I think everybody wants to audible him into. So, serious question. If you build him tanky, he might live to use his Held by Hatred, and he gains the 100% defense. He becomes bonkers. But if we build him offensively, is there any room for that? Like, is that a possibility? So I'll throw it around the corner, and I'm going to toss it to Mist first.
Okay, so did we talk about Break Will at all? His second special.
You know
we
what?
may have skipped over that.
We
That's
did.
fine. It's I'll breeze over it real quick because the Held by Hatred is what we're trying to talk about here. So you can't really talk about Scion without talking about all of his abilities really together. So
No, it's my
Special
fault.
2,
You're
Break
right.
Will, deals physical damage and inflicts pain on target enemy for 3 turns. This attack also can't be evaded. So F Foresight. This attack can't be evaded if the target already had pain. This attack deals 100% more damage, which I have screenshots of this dealing 30 to 40,000 damage, and Scion recovers
45 on Arnold's.
Right. So, and then Scion recovers 35% protection. So, if I were modding Scion in a perfect world, I would mod him with a crit damage set with protection primary stats. So my
Wow, I did not expect that answer.
Aside from maybe the cross mod, I might go with a potency mod on the cross mod just to ensure that pain is actually getting inflicted. Now this is partly based on whether his base potency is high or if it is low. If he has a real low base potency of like 10-15%, I'll probably throw a potency cross mod on him. If he has a high base potency of like 35 to 40% potency, then I'll probably go with a protection cross mod. But I will probably go with a crit damage set because he gains a 25% crit chance. So if he has a decent base critical chance, then what I'm looking for is where I want to put a crit damage mod set on a character is if they have at least 40 to 50% crit chance. Because otherwise, you're not getting the advantage of that crit damage set. You're not getting the actual crit damage from the crits if you're not landing crits. So for Scion, since Hatred gives him the 25% crit chance, once you get to Hatred and he starts going ham with 100% offense and 25% crit chance, if you've got a crit damage set on him, when he starts going crazy with Break Will, dealing 100% more damage with 100% offense plus 180% crit chance from a crit damage mod set, that's where you're going to get to that 35, 40, 45,000 damage on Break Will, which for a tank is absolutely monstrous. Now, granted,
I really thought I was alone in that thought process. I was like,
no,
this is how I think about it, but no, that's really
but I would
refreshing.
I would still go with now the triangle is probably the one mod where I would be like, what do I want to do with it? Because he does get that 35% protection, I don't know if I would be so hell-bent on putting protection on that triangle mod. Maybe I would go for like a crit chance mod there, so that I am making sure that he is getting use out of that crit damage
But
mod
if you
set.
had a higher protection pool, like he's probably going to
Yes,
lose
he's
that,
going to
right?
get the 30.
So then,
Right, he's going to get the 35%. That 35% protection is going to be a higher amount.
Yeah.
However, when you when you finally do get to Held by Hatred, it also grants him a 100% health, 100% turn meter revive when he does get killed with that special buff. So when you have Held by Hatred, you he's basically unkillable. He's like a pseudo zombie, so to speak. He'll revive with 100% health and 100% turn meter. And if he's had Held by Hatred for long enough that the cooldown has gone back down on Held by Hatred, when he comes back to life, he could potentially put Held by Hatred back on himself. So,
that's what we refer to as putting in the pooper.
so that's the other important thing to take away with Held by Hatred is he does get that revive, and it isn't just like a 50% health revive. It is 100% health. So health mods probably wouldn't be that bad. So if you have a crit damage or whatever mod set you decide to use, and your highest speed happens to be on a health primary instead of a potent or protection primary, I wouldn't get too worried about it. Plus, you want to remember that under an Emperor Palpatine Zeta, Sith allies gain health every time they inflict a negative status effect. So Scion's going to be running around with 100% health almost all the time.
I could definitely see a world where you have a 4-2 split on the mods, like 2 health and 4 crit. But Legend, what's your take, brother?
I don't think getting too wrapped up in the modding of him is really relevant at the time being, but yeah, he's gonna be a bitch. Kill, man. He's gonna be a bitch, man. I mean, without base stats, we can't really get too much in detail on how you're gonna mod him, but I think safe rule of thumb is always try to throw in as much speed secondaries as you can. But past that, man, there's not a whole lot you can do without having all those base stats. I don't really know any other way to describe it, but he's that dude's gonna suck, man. He's gonna be such a
Yeah.
Fair assessment. Curio, you got anything to add?
And we were speaking about this offline. I'm wondering though if there's a little bit of hype train on this.
Because, there always is.
Yeah, because here's the thing. If he doesn't, and even when he gets attacked and hit, there is a chance for pain to be resisted. So if his pain kind of like starts floundering in the beginning, he might just kind of putter out. I mean, he might get just thrown fractured and just be out of the game. I mean, like there's a little bit of a snowball, right? Like if he gets the snowball going, it's brutal. Go ahead.
No, that's 100% correct.
Hold on, let's throw it to Legend. Legend, go ahead.
Trooper is now going to have auto taunt, so we'll get to that later, I guess. But,
No, we might as well let's just go ham on this. It doesn't need to be formal format anymore. Anybody that's still listening is in it for the long haul to hear 5 talk about shit. So just go ham on it, dude. Legend.
Go ahead, Legend. Yeah, go ahead.
Throw
that's all I needed to say, man. I mean, if you have a really fast Vader, really fast Palpatine, land some stuns early, land some debuffs early on them, and you have that auto taunt coming from Sith Trooper, which I haven't read any details on that at all, but that's exactly what I want from Sith Trooper.
Well,
and exactly why I'm gearing him now myself. But
Okay.
Here was
it's not really going to be all that easy to get to Scion, is it? So maybe you don't have to worry about that fracture because maybe that fracture is going to land on Sith Trooper instead of Scion.
Right.
Scion
Right.
goes ham.
well, the irony of this, there's a weird irony to this, is the Sith Trooper was already talked about before being in the Palpatine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
A lot of teams have it too.
yeah. Well, honestly, did he need the Pre-Taunt? He didn't need the Pre-Taunt.
I mean, the
The-
Pre-Taunt is awesome, dude. I mean,
The reason why Kirill, he's kind of leading you down a path that he. Okay, ask yourselves this: does Vader go first every time, most of the time?
Most of the
if
time.
somebody's throwing Thrawn on their team, most Thrawns are modded to be super fast. So Thrawn's usually going to go pretty early as well. And if you have a Pre-Taunt on Sith Trooper, and he throws on that fracture right away, he's going to throw that fracture on the Sith Trooper, so you don't have to worry about that fracture right off the bat.
Absolutely, but then
Well,
you have
the
to ask yourself:
Pre-Taunt-
does the Vader does it change anything? Because
The
Kirill
Pre-Taunt
landed
is there.
this-
The Pre-Taunt is there to counter Jedi training ray squads, because it doesn't matter how fast you make your Darth Vader, a Jedi training ray squad is always going to go first because of the uniques and the traits that BB-8 has. BB-8 will always make a Jedi training ray squad go first because it is impossible to outspeed a BB-8 under Jedi training ray.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the TIE team doesn't have a lot of rebels to
Give
trigger Vader.
the-
Right. Well,
So
go ahead.
can I chime in for a second? So somewhat directly related, but also not related. There's some things about Hell by Hatred. You mentioned about where Thrawn's fracture is going to land, and I really don't see it as that. Yeah, you were talking about Sith Trooper, basically being that buffer to absorb that. And if I see a lot of Thrawns, I see a lot of Darth Nihilists together. I don't see. Sorry, what I do see, I'm floundering. My apologies. Is him swapping turn meter with Darth Nihilus. Darth Nihilus dispelling the Sith Trooper taunt with his basic, and then Thrawn immediately going again, fracturing Scion to kind of get him out of the way. I really don't see Sith Trooper as that big of a defense against.
So you're
Right.
seeing it kind of like the Tide team, to where you fracture General Kenobi and you just for instance, use CLS to cleanse off old Ben's old taunt.
In a way, and a lot of that not evadable thing, stuff works together with that too. That's just assuming that a Thrawn Nihilus combo is going to go against this this nightmare team that I think Arnold mentioned was coined between some game changers, and I'll talk more about this ability later when we come back around. But I just want to throw that
No,
in.
dude, just go ham on it, dude.
Go on it. All right. So first and foremost, as much as it pains me to say it, I do not recommend putting Scion under a Darth Nihilus leader. I love Nihilus, but everything about that leader ability just contradicts what Scion is about. I mean, he's got healing, to himself. He adds protection to himself, both of which are nullified from Darth Nihilus's leader ability, converting protection into max health and eliminating regular healing. There's healing, there's lifesteal, and there's equalizing health, which I think we only have Barris and Chirrut for that, unless I'm mistaken. But that's the only
No,
two
I
that we have.
think that's right. Yeah.
I think so.
So that aside, he's also preventing any chance of critical stuff. So like Miss was saying earlier, I heavily agree with a critical damage mod set, but my secondary mod set recommendation would be defense, because he also gets the plus 100% defense with the offense on Held by Hatred. And the other important thing for me is it's non-preventable to apply that buff to him, but his revive is not non-preventable like Zombie. he can still be annihilated. He can still be executed by Boba. He can still be taken out by these guys that prevent revives. So,
I think that's a really interesting point that I overlooked myself. Did everybody else overlook that, or was that obvious? I'm sorry, I'm blown away right now.
I just took it very similar to Commander Luke Skywalker's ability, where he's regaining himself and he's kind of switching stances between defense and offense. Honestly, I think Sion has a lot of offensive potential, but if not properly defending himself to be able to be offensive, it's not going to matter. Does that make sense? I think I kind of talked in a circle there.
No. Basically, what you're saying is you want to make sure that he has enough protection and health and defense to get himself to the point where he's using Held by Hatred so that he can increase his damage output.
Yes, all under the context of not using Darth Nihilus as a leader for him, because I love my Nihilus team, but
I think we're all in
that's
that camp, right?
You
all agree he doesn't go under Nihilus.
I know.
I hadn't even considered that.
I tried to find a way. I really did.
Assuming Palpatine.
I do really like the idea of putting a Vader with him, though. Maybe not under Vader lead, but with multiple abilities that cannot be evaded. Now that Vader can do things without being evaded against Foresight, against Rebels and Jedi, that is. So maybe not that great against the Resistance team, other than Jedi training Rey. Just everything about it just kind of points in the direction for Palp, or what was the other one that was being spit around? I didn't know that much about it, but it sounded good. Okay, I guess.
What are you in reference to? No.
Well,
I'm trying to figure out what you're in reference to.
No, there is
Leadership?
there's actually some hype right now on the forums in regards to Thrawn being a relevant leadership. Yeah, because of his.
But I thought that was as it pertains to the other chick, right?
Possibly, but also because of his protection gain when he adds or resists debuffs. And it's sort of along my stupid Grandmaster Yoda idea. The more...
I don't think it was stupid, by the way.
Empire.
There's one more idea I wanted to throw out there, just because it kind of came up when I was looking around.
Okay, hold on, time out. Miss just brought up the point. Not Empire, right?
He's not Empire. When he resists, I think Thrawn's leader ability is exclusive to Empire. Let me double check.
It is, right.
So he wouldn't gain protection.
The protection, right.
Yep, only Empire on all the facets there. The other thing that came up for me was a Savage lead. Extra defense, tenacity. Very clear cut. And a Zeta Savage will help with spreading out the debuffs in general. Not really sure how it could play out, but it's something.
Does anybody know what he means by savage?
Savage.
Sorry,
I'm trying to
Frost,
think
not
of
busting
who's
your
the
balls.
most
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about? He's a Sith.
Bust your
Savage
balls, brother.
Opress. Stupid name. Sorry, not a fan. But that's really all I had to input there, other than just reiterating, with the defense set of mods with the critical damage. Like Legend was saying about, put as much speed secondaries as you can. Like Mist was saying about more protection secondaries. The triangle mod is one of those kind of go with whatever is going to best fit your composition there. His protection recovery is going to be essential, I think.
Absolutely. So, Legend, final thoughts on the two characters. Go.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Okay,
Man,
fuck
Sion's
chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
gonna be sweet, man. He's gonna be a pain in the ass. Can't wait for that one. I'm super pumped that Darkseid's getting the love it's been drastically needing for a long time. I know a lot of guys are complaining about all you need is one Zeta to make a Sith team now, or an Empire team, or whatever it is, a Zeta Palpatine team now. And I'm just like, man, it's team. So
Yeah.
and now they're just adding to it, And
Yeah.
that's just awesome to me.
Dude, we
The-
still
the-
haven't even seen Treya yet. Treya may have a Zeta that we need.
Yep.
There is Nihilus
I saw that
to
look of
consider
excitement on
on.
this.
I would
on
argue. I would argue that Nihilus Unique is not a required Zeta to make it work, but it feeds a Palpatine Zeta lead. It keeps Vasis from counterattacking. It, I think, it obviously helps with his Force Drain or whatever it is. I think a Nihilus Unique Zeta is a very nice to have, but not required Zeta.
It's
Well
no Zeta on Finn, but I think
Right.
that Mist hit it on the head. There is that I think it's probably as close as you can get. Like, yeah. What is R2's other one besides Number Crunch?
Combat analysis.
There you go. I
It's
feel like
another
it's
one that-
equivalent.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice to have, but you don't have to.
Yep. I've had R2 at gear 12 without combat analysis Zeta since R2 was R2. I still don't have a Zeta, and I don't plan on Zeta.
I
All
double
right,
Zeted
brother.
him immediately.
Yeah. I'm really stingy with my Zetas, except when it came to my Impulse Zeta of Dooku. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, I don't think. I mean, we kind of touched on it, but Sith Trooper now has a pre-taunt. For any of you that don't know, so
I don't
we're
know if
just
that
gonna-
is in the game right now, though. Let me double check.
It does have the text now. Yeah.
We'll just go ahead and glaze over that. That's a thing. It's probably a big thing, and you probably should be farming him if you don't have him yet. But we're gonna kind of glaze over it because, well, we've already taken 2.5 hours from you guys, and you will never get those minutes back from your life. But,
Okay, well,
but
hold on.
outside
This,
of that, hold on.
well, this is just for you guys.
Okay,
Keep going.
no, go ahead.
Here, I'm putting on my conspiracy theory hat, boys. Why in the hell were they using Sith Trooper in that team?
What do you mean?
So, it's a game change. So it's a game changer event, and the feature tank is Scion. Why in the hell did they have another tank in that team?
Double
There's
tank.
lots of double tanks, bro.
No.
Look at
This
Time
was the-
Team, old
this is the
both
feature-
Kenobis, man.
This was feature tank. This is a feature tank.
Well, I
And they
can tell you
put-
right now
well,
that they
there's the
tried
Sith
a
Trooper
whole lot of
rework, too.
different. They tried a whole lot of different compositions. I mean, they told them out there, hey, Sith Trooper has a pre-taunt now, and of course they're going to throw Sith Trooper in there to play, test out the pre-taunt.
But before we
It's-
dismiss
plus,
it,
I mean,
let's hear out Curiel. He may be on something. I'm wearing tinfoil on my head. So
Yeah.
Sith Trooper is an old Republic era character. He was added to the game with Nihilus.
There is. But now, guess what? There's a Sith Trooper. There's a Sith Marauder. There's a Sith Assassin. Are we going to see, like, some sort of... Is this going to be some part of the team that you need to, like, get, like, a Journey's Fall, a Journey, the Legendary event?
Revan
'Cause-
confirmed.
Yeah,
I'm
there you
just
go.
saying. I'm just saying. The way they...
I'm not confirmed. Revan. I
Well,
seriously, I do not know if Revan.
Yeah.
you heard it here first on the Mad Dad channel. Game
Start
Changer
that
just
right there.
confirmed
Yeah.
Revan.
Mist just confirmed Revan.
Hey,
Rep-
quick
or-
note actually about Sith Marauder. I'm glad you mentioned him, Curiel, because with all these new characters that we're getting, everyone's been very highly anticipating how they're going to be relevant in the new raid. I know that he also benefits a lot from critical chance stuff. I think it is. I haven't really delved into his kit a lot. I just know that he's going to be relevant in the raid somehow. So with this change to Sith Trooper, Curio, you could be right with your conspiracy theory as for how they're tweaking this team to kind of come together against the Triumvirate and finally acquiring Treya, and how that's going to then come together. I'm sure we will hear more about that in the coming days when we get
And-
the Hurricane reveal.
And so I'm a little bit confused, and maybe one of you guys is more knowledgeable than me on this. I've heard conflicting things. Okay, so obviously we know the Triumvirate is involved with the Sith raid, but didn't I read somewhere that we were fighting against Jedi?
I don't know if
no
anything
idea.
confirmed has come out yet.
Oh, I don't know.
I am virtually positive that I read somewhere. Now, maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that I read that it was we were going to be fighting against Jedi. I think it was Cozy Spoon that had made that claim, but I could be inaccurate.
I'll take another look, but I mean, sure, why not, right? I mean,
It's going to be exciting tomorrow because they're going to tell us what this new raid structure is going to be. Evidently, it's something that we haven't seen before. So it's going to be interesting.
I'm virtually sure, but okay. Nonetheless, okay. So let's go ahead and let's throw it out. Blind chick, aka what's her name?
Risa Smar.
Hey, there we go. Curio, what do you give her? A to F.
Oh, without speculating, without seeing her in action, I have to give her like a C plus. C
Miss,
plus.
what's yours?
That's a pretty big range.
Are we talking like max geared, like on the same tiers, or like maxed out?
Yeah, I think
yeah,
we
of
have
course.
to put it
Okay,
in that
yeah.
context.
I'm sorry, I'm tired. Yeah. I would probably give her a B plus, A minus.
Whoa. Okay.
I think her kit is. I think it's one of those hidden gems where
Fair.
it kind of gets lost over and you're like, yeah, it looks good, but then you put it into practice and you're like, holy God, this is amazing.
So basically the opposite of Sith Marauder. We got it.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with Sith Marauder. Still disappointed with Sith Marauder.
All right, Legend. What's your grade, brother?
Yeah, I give it a solid A, man. It's all the health, all the healing. You know, I love healers, man. Barasoff was my first Zeta in the game. My first Gear 11 that I ever got to in the game. So I love that aspect. Plus a revive. That's pretty badass. So solid A from first look, but only time will tell.
All right, and Faustin, what's your take, man?
you know, I was hovering all over the board with this one just because I haven't really, without speculating of firsthand experience of putting her with teams, I'm gonna have to go with just a solid B right now. On paper, looks great. What is this? What are we looking at? Oh, Varys. There you go. There you go.
No
But,
Zeta. Gear 8.
Gear 8.
Yeah, until
I'm not going to conform.
I have high hopes for her, but I don't know what all the potential outcomes are going to be.
Fair enough, and that's all this is. It's speculation, so we can't really say, "Hey, you were wrong. You didn't realize this really niche combo that works with her revives." So, if I'm
Five
gonna throw
on
out,
team.
I'm going to throw out a B minus at her. I think she's really solid. She looks really good, and I think there's going to be something that comes out of that revive. So moving on to Scion, Boston, where you at, brother?
A plus all day. I love the look of Scion. I think he's going to be amazing. I'm a little disappointed that it's not going to work real well with my Darth Nihilus team, but that's okay. We have Sith variety, and that's what the meta has needed for a while. I think.
They built in synergy with Nihilus. What are you talking about? Oh,
no,
you're talking about
Nihilus lead. Nihilus lead. Sorry. Yeah.
All right, Legend. What do you give him?
I give him an F.
Yeah, because he's a marquee character.
Because he's a marquee character, and I'm not willing out for him.
Exactly.
And I want to so bad.
Bullshit, you're dropping 400 bones. You're doing it. You're doing it.
Hashtag who wants to buy the Legend of a couple vaults?
Hey, there
Yeah,
you
I'm
go.
right there with you.
So, if you want to donate to the show here, we'll figure out a way. I don't know how. All right, Mist. In all seriousness, what do you give Scion, brother?
Hey, I think he is a solid Sith replacement for General Kenobi and all these Emperor Palpatine leads. Unfortunately, like you said, he is a marquee character, but I give this a big, heavy caveat. On the bright side, in the past, we have had marquee characters come to the game at 3 stars and be 100% arena viable.
Yep.
So that is my one bright and shining hope that I have for Scion is that my 3-star Scion at Gear 11 will be arena viable. And if he's not, I'll just go back to my Rex lead.
Or this General Kenobi guy that I've heard a lot about.
Yeah.
So, Curio, what do you give him?
I think I just have this itching feeling that the hype train is going a little bit too fast. So I think I'm gonna give him a B minus. He looks really, really good.
How?
You mean like with CLS or like with JTR? Those type of
Yeah.
things? It's going too
Oh.
fast? Or-
Oh, I totally called it on JTR. I hashed her to death.
Didn't you guys have a video totally bashing her? and how
Oh,
worthless?
she was
We
the
didn't
worst.
bash her. We said that she wasn't as good as people were betraying or portraying.
She only
Betraying.
became arena meta and made A.
Shut up! We don't
Made
talk about our
AT
past
like
videos.
super simple. And
We don't talk about our past videos.
What about you, Boston? Great
But while JTR was the meta, I was still running my Rex lead, Thrawn,
He's back to his Rex.
Solo, General Kenobi, with R2.
Yeah,
And I was
baby.
crushing
I'm not
General.
up
Jedi
until
training, right?
Palpatine, I was still running CLS. So
Hey,
Yeah.
brother, I'm right there
I'm-
with you.
problems.
I have Gear 11
and
guys,
by the
I'm
way,
waiting
I
to get
ran
'em to
Zader
12.
up until CLS came out. So
Nice.
Nice. Like I said, I've been a Rex fan for like the last year and a half.
Well,
But-
he's a beast.
No, yeah, like so. Actually, Jedi Training Rey. I was pretty pissed off at how they released her with the veterans, and unless you were already buying their shards with crystals before they were released farmable, you had to whale out in order to get them. I thought that was pretty cheap, and I thought it was a money grab. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not that butthurt about not getting Jedi Training Rey. You know, yeah, she's nice for running resistance, especially in the tank, and blah 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 blah. You can pretty much auto it, whatever. But yeah, let's be real. I don't catch the tank raids when they happen already, so having Jedi Training Rey in my roster wouldn't make that giant change. So
To be honest with you, my takeaway is pretty similar, but I come from a different spectrum. Is that I'm on the lower end, and my shard is all CLS all the time. Like that's all it is. And so,
I'm pretty
Yeah, I
break
like
that
switch to
meta.
Palpatine then, bro.
oh, what do you think I've been
Oh.
doing the last? Like,
Oh,
3
he
weeks?
is.
Dude. I'm like, dude, they're gonna watch. They keep kicking me back down to like 40. Dude, you watch. I'm gonna fuck the Empire team. I'm gonna put in their pooper. But in all seriousness, if I was to give our friend Scion a grade, I'm gonna go ahead and say an A plus.
Hey.
The man's a beast.
Mr. B minus over there. How dare you?
Fuck minus
I-
mother.
I gotta be mediocre after I went out on a limb.
He gives
on
an
JTR.
A plus on Grandmaster Yoda too. So I don't think he trust him.
You know, the next quality of life when they introduce like guild members simulating against each other, you and I, we're gonna have a little.
Call it like
Speak-
a headshot. Grandmaster
Speaking of
Yoda.
quality of life, CG, if you are watching this, for the love of God, Bronzium packs. Bronzium packs.
Or like a bar, a meter thing.
I
And mod
will-
management.
The things that I will send Curiel to do if you give me Bronzium packs. But no, in all seriousness, let's throw it around the corn one last time, ladies and gentlemen. And by ladies and gentlemen, I just mean gentlemen. Yeah, and by gentlemen, I don't really mean
I
gentlemen. You're
promise
assholes.
nobody's gonna get to this point in this video either.
No.
We're only for like 2 hours in.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty late.
It's almost 3 hours.
What are you talking about? They're just sitting there. They're watching like Miss like curtains in the background. They're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh
My-
my god. It's
Telephone.
So
All right, so let's go ahead and pimp some stuff. To our game-changing friend and ever-present game-changing friend. I didn't know how to transition there, but nonetheless, we always appreciate having him on, and is the one, the only Miss Passier. Miss Passier, where can people find you on YouTube, man?
With the search bar. No.
Oh my god, that was brutal. He's all. Let me Google that for you.
We're all sleeping.
It's like,
IST
you got a keyboard, don't you, motherfucker?
ASSIERT. Miss Passiert on YouTube. Miss Passiert. Actually, it's Mist_YouTube on Twitter, and from there you can pretty much reach all my social media platforms. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Which draws us to the next talking point as far as, well, you don't want to hear me talk anymore, but if you are a subscriber to our channel here, me and Kirill, if you're not subscribed to Mist, you're doing it wrong. Like, seriously, this man is a savage. He's a game changer. But even aside from that title, he's just releasing really good content. He's down to earth and
I have
obviously super approachable. And he talks to us, so I mean, you know, he has patience. But
I stuck around for all of this.
So
I will
I'm gonna be at work in
admit-
like 4 hours too. So.
there you
Jesus.
go. So if you
Oh, my
guys
Yeah,
God.
are,
here it is.
there it is.
Yep.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Boom.
Bam. Just happened. The
Plus
legend.
one.
What's up? What do you want to pimp out, brother?
My pillow.
Yeah.
Then
So
I'm just
literally,
saying,
our
you
talk
guys
before
might
the
lose
show.
all of your subscribers like right now. They might just all just click. So, Mist, I'm sorry, dude. Like,
That's fine. That's fine.
Gotta.
I don't do it for the YouTube monies. I do it for fun.
Oh yeah, all that YouTube money.
well, Mad Dad and Kirill are gonna be your only subscribers following this.
And me.
The legend's already. He's like.
Oh god.
No,
Oh,
this has been fun, guys.
already.
This has been a lot of fun.
yeah.
As always.
Hey,
And Kirill, did you want to pimp anything out besides you?
no, man, it's all
Nah.
good. Hey, yeah, seriously, I know we went long, but I had fun, guys. I mean, I know Mist. He just would have been watching cheap porn if he wasn't doing this. So, I mean,
There's still time, bro.
yeah, it's yeah, that awesome internet you got. So, and it was nice. It was nice meeting you, Fatson, face to face, and Legend. So, I really appreciate it, guys. I had fun. So, I'm gonna go put my 2-year-old to bed. I really appreciate you guys,
2-year-old to bed. It's
What
fucking
the
mid-
dude.
If
You're
your
like-
2-year-old's not already in bed, you're
Dude,
doing
she parties, she parties like a college girl, man. It's
Gotta be
insane.
here. Gotta be
You're like,
She-
hold on, Daddy's shooting a video. Do this line of cocaine. You know, he okay?
I swear to God. She wakes me up at like 4 in the morning. She's like, "You think Denny's is open? Like, let's go to Denny's." Yeah, nah, it's cool, man. All right, guys. No, I'm gonna take off. I appreciate you guys.
Fair enough.
Have a good night,
So
man.
from Mad Dad and all the crew that have assembled tonight and done this show, we'll see you guys in game.
Oh, he wants to pimp out something.
Oh,
about that.
wait for it. We have a
So,
special announcement. Special announcement. Go ahead.
I I am not a social media conformist, and I have nothing like that to pimp out. However, if you are a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes player, you are an active player, you are looking for a good community to be engaged in, look up the FTB and HBC Alliance. We are a guild of 19 guilds across the board, including the Academy, which is kind of a training thing, or for alts if you're interested in joining us on Discord. You can find me on the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes forum, same name, Fauztin, Fauztin. And Mist, I want to thank you. You know, this was really cool to get to meet you. I learned a lot, heard a lot, and you know, like Curio, I had a lot of fun. And I do apologize for dragging this on a little bit longer than maybe it needed to be, but I appreciate you guys having me as the 5th member on the panel. Thank you.
I love the dialogue.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Alright, guys.
you brought civility to it, and meanwhile, the rest of us were just like, "It's a show."
I didn't even know what we were talking about. So
All right, guys.
you guys were like, oh, new characters. I was like, oh, let me figure out what.
All right, guys. Have a good night, man.
Later, brother.
The power of the dark side.